Hello, my name is Brianna Turner, and I'm here with my site supervisor, Miss Meredith Mooney. So today, Miss Meredith, we're going to be doing an interview. I have 10 open and ended questions for you to answer.
Okay.
So number one is, can you tell me a little bit about yourself, like where are you from, if you have any siblings, or etc.?
So I am from Jamestown, North Carolina, which is right in between High Point and Greensboro. Most of the time I just say I'm from Greensboro because no one's ever heard of Jamestown. I have two other siblings. I have an older brother and a younger sister. So I am the middle child, but not the typical middle child. I'm a typical older child. What was the other question?
That's pretty much it for
Okay,
that
cool.
one. So what education do you have?
So I currently hold a bachelor's in psychology with a concentration of child and adolescent development. I also hold a bachelor's of psychology with a concentration of human services, and then I also went to Stanley Community College and received my Admin 1 and 2 credentials.
Congrats, Meredith. Miss Meredith is so smart. So what is your job status right now?
So on paper, my status is the assistant director of the Goddard School of Durham, but I am also holding the lead teacher position in our Panda classroom, which is our older toddler classroom, excuse me. So I'm kind of juggling both roles at the moment.
Okay. What are some job duties that you have?
For which position?
Let's do like two job duties for each job position you hold.
So my admin position, I am in charge of a lot of the curriculum. So I come up with lesson plan activities and theme sheets along with putting it on our website and making sure our calendars are up to date and getting those to the teachers way in advance. Another thing that I am in charge of is doing any sort of outreach or promotional project or any kind of visitors that may come into the school. That is my job. It's probably my funnest job or my favorite part of the job is preparing things to come in for the school to have for the children to have a good experience. For the classroom that I'm currently in, some of the jobs would obviously be doing lesson plans. They have to be turned in 2 weeks ahead of time, so I have to make sure those don't fall behind, and then also doing the portfolios for the children.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. So, are there any opportunities to excel in your career, do you feel like?
Sure. So what you don't know is that before I became an admin, I was the toddler teacher. So at some point I said, I don't want to be in this classroom when I'm 30. Well, I'm 29 now and I'm back in the classroom, but I didn't want to be there full time. So I asked our director, what can I do to advance myself? And she said, well, with the degree you already have, you can take this and then you'd be fully qualified for being a level 3 director in any childcare facility. So that is why I took Admin 1 and 2. And then from that, you can kind of branch off. You hear a lot of times for like your state consultants or your QA consultants, anything like that. Half the time, those were ones that were a director at some point too, because being a director is what helps you learn a lot about the facility, the ins and outs first before you really go observe it for a living. Some people also branch off and just open their own center. So there's a lot of advancement that you can do in this position.
So what qualifications would you need to be a teacher or to work as in your position in your field?
Sure. So with our center, we're a 5-star center, so that means we have to have certain qualifications for each teacher. So the ratio of percentage of teachers with degrees has to be at X amount. So in order to be a 7-point lead, which is the highest lead that we would need, you would need to have that bachelor's degree in early childhood education or something very similar, family consumer science, some stuff like that. For my position as well, depending on what your degree is, because I have a psych degree, I needed the admins. So really depending on where you're trying to go in a center will depend on what education you need. Taking admin 1 and 2 is really good. Teach also does a program to where you can get your master's in early childhood. It's not necessarily required. And depending on what center you're in, having your level 3 admin is not required either. But for a 5-star center, it is.
All right, so why do you believe it is important that early childhood education is important to young children?
I believe it's important because it sets the foundation. My early years of teaching, I would have parents come to me and say, "Did you teach my children the ABCs? Because I would have never thought to sing the ABCs with them." We really are the ones that are teaching them to count, teaching them their colors, and even though that doesn't seem significant right now or later on in their lives, that sets the groundwork for their education starting to kindergarten. Our pre-K program, we focus a lot on what the kindergartners do, so we set them up for success. That way they won't struggle into kindergarten because they're already familiar with some of the concepts already. So I think it's really important. It also helps in this field to help with social emotional skills. Sometimes if a child doesn't go to a childcare facility or a preschool, they don't really get those social skills that they need and learn to cope. And then when they go into kindergarten, they struggle because they haven't learned how to be with a group of children and how to interact accordingly.
So with your education and your experience, where do you see yourself in like the next 5 years?
Well, if I'm completely honest, I would really like to just not work and become a mom myself.
Yeah.
That's where I wish I could be. We'll see about that. But I honestly, if that's not the case, I love my role. I always feel, and I've always been passionate about, you do what you love what you do. I do what I love, and I love what I do. So I don't really see me changing. I really like where I'm at. I would hope to be back full time in the office and not juggling a classroom plus office job. But other than that, I mean, if it's not me sitting at home cuddling a baby, I would really like to just kind of stay put. I'm not one that likes to bounce.
Yeah, I think Meredith plus one would be great.
They all try.
Okay, last question. What advice do you have for any individuals who desire to work in an early childhood education environment?
I would say get your feet wet. When you do your internships like you have, to take it seriously, to ask questions. A lot of times we see employees that come in who, you know, they just kind of showed up for their internship and didn't really learn from it, and so they're still clueless and they have no idea really what childcare is all about. I would say to ask those questions and really get to know what early childhood's about, because sometimes it's not what you think. It's not you walk in, you love on some babies, you walk out. It's much, much more than that. You're dealing with parents, you're dealing with admins, you're dealing with 30 other women that like to be catty sometimes. Like you have to learn the ins and outs, and it's very hard to get discouraged if you get that one child that, you know, does nothing but cry and cry and cry or throw toys all day. So it's really try to get to know what you can before you really get into it. That way you can kind of learn if it is something actually for you.
Okay, well, it's been a pleasure, Miss Meredith.
Thank you. We'll hope that you can come back and visit us sometime.
This is true, I will. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was nice meeting you. Feel free to give me a call if you would like. Bye.